Good afternoon, this is Yakko Rides again, and this is a Canyon Endurace ONfly CF7, and today we're going to be giving it a full review. Now, if you've seen the previous reviews I've done of this bike, they're just the unboxing, first ride. I've now had the bike for 2 months and I've really been putting off this full review because Canyon may decide to take it back afterwards. And I'd really rather they didn't. I'm not going to give anything away, whether I like the bike or not. But please, Canyon, please don't take it back. Now, you can probably tell from the way that the bike's hanging in a tree, I'm not a professional, I'm an enthusiast. And for some incredibly strange reason, Canyon decided to send me their absolutely brand new groundbreaking bike to review, and this was only about 2 weeks after GCN did their first look in a car park. 2 weeks later I'm on one riding it around. I just couldn't believe it, but I'm incredibly grateful just to be given the chance. I might have found that the bike is a huge pile of rubbish. They've not asked me to review it positively, so I've got free rein to say what I like. So what we're going to do, we're going to run through the bike's main specs and features, this model, the CF7, and then I'm going to take it for a spin, explain how it feels and what I've found when riding it, and then we're going to come back for some conclusions, but also the just tiny little niggles there are that you probably want to know about, and I think there are two. So we'll come back to the tree cam because it is the best height for me to show you things, and we're going to go and put it in the sun first so I can give you a proper look at how it looks, because looks are important, there's no getting away from it. If this was an ugly bike, it could have the best features and you'd still think, yeah, but it's ugly. I think a bike is something you feel such a close link to. It's your bike, you want to get on it every day. You want to feel pissed off that you can't ride it because you've got to go to work or because it's someone's wedding or something like that. It has to be something that really gets to you. I think this bike is a very good looking bike. Now you'll notice there that I didn't say it's stunningly beautiful. And I'm really sorry. This is to a lot of people. To me, this is an 8 out of 10 for looks. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But for me, it isn't absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. To me, this is a combination of very good looks but utter efficiency. There's no point in having a beautiful machine if it doesn't work, and this really does work better than any other road bike I've tried. The specifications, the power, the weight of the thing, the way it rolls with and without assist. So I'm going to tell you how I feel about this bike. And as you can tell, it's pretty positive. I really hope that I'm not swayed just by a price tag. It needs to be worth it. This is an expensive bike. It is worth it. There's a lot of features here. We're going to be going through them all. I haven't started mentioning anything yet. These little decals, they all look quite stealth, but if you catch them in the light properly, can you see that? They're all little rainbows. Rainbow bling. So let's start. As I've said before, this is the CF7. If you're interested in either higher or lower spec Endurace ONflys, there's going to be a link in the description below so you can go and have a look at their webpage and check out the specs of those models. Now, the first thing I can't really show you other than by picking it up. This model is the Di2 105 spec model. It's third down from the top. Despite that, and despite having a mid motor and a 290 watt-hour battery, this model weighs 11.7 kilos. So sadly for Orbea, that does actually make it lighter than their flagship Orbea Gain, which admittedly does have a larger battery and with that longer range. But if you just want it as light as possible, this one's lighter. As I'm sure you know, there is a sub 10 kilo version of this bike. It's extraordinarily expensive. On the other hand, it is sub 10 kilos and it's called the sub 10. I don't know where they get the ideas from. Okay, let's start at the front. Start off with integrated cockpit. It is beautiful. It's got a very clever out front mount on it, which actually unscrews. There's a cover plate here that unscrews so you can fit this very smooth and silky computer mount on the front. And underneath is a daytime running light, which is actually powerful enough to see you home commuting. It wouldn't be enough if you're barreling downhill at 60 kilometers an hour just using that light. I don't think it would throw light far enough ahead. If you're just trying to get home and there are street lights and you just want to be seen, no problem. This has the Shimano 105 Di2 group set, which I must say, it works beautifully. Compared to the Ultra and Endurace Di2s that I've tested, this is slightly more clunky, slightly more inaccurate, and I can't really put it into words better than that. There's nothing wrong with it. It works so much better than, for example, my mechanical Ultra that I have on my bike. It's far more crisp and fast than that, and it has other features like you can change multiple gears at once, you can change stood on the pedals. There's also the two features that I've never actually bothered to find out about, which is synchro. I've never set it. Apparently it's brilliant, but I never quite got round to it. Actually, I forgot to do it. But overall, the system is amazingly good, and I think for that ever such tiny difference in the speed, perhaps possibly, or the accuracy of shifting, I'd really wonder why I would be going and spending a lot more for the Ultra or the Durace. You're not really trying to look to save a lot of weight on these bikes because they're assisted. I realise that I'm looking at the bike and it needs to be you looking at the bike. So where do we get to? We've got an integrated cockpit. The cockpit is clever in that it's extendable. You can make the bars wider. This adjusts from anywhere between 38 and 42 centimetres. And these spacers, you don't have to take the handlebars off in order to take these off and to reduce the height. You undo the various bolts, you lift up the bars, and these come apart and you can lower it back down again without actually having to do anything else. They would just stay off. So you can adjust the height of your stem by around, I think it's around a centimetre or a centimetre and a half. Which does take some of the worry out of buying a direct-to-customer bike. It's got a mounting point for a top bar bag rather than using straps, which is excellent, but it does stop the straps from scuffing the rather beautiful paintwork. And then moving backwards, it's my saddle. I've got on so well with these charge scoops. This was an even cheaper one than usual. And underneath is this leaf spring saddle post. It's really good. It really works. What it does do for certain is reduce road noise, the vibration. This was one of the best features of the bike. I don't know how bad your roads are, but you do need something. If you're going to ride gravel in particular, this is absolutely fantastic. What I also liked, because it's not automatically apparent, if you want to change the seat angle, you need to remove the entire seat post, and at the bottom where these two pieces come down, there's a bolt that goes through. So with that out of the way, you need to adjust one side up and down in order to get the seat tilt. And I did it by eye the first time, and then I saw this clever little feature on the back. It says saddle tilt, and there's a line, and on the side here it's got the degrees up and down, so you can get it absolutely level, or if you think you need half a degree up or half a degree down, or 1 or 2, or you can do it all from here. Set it, put the saddle post back in. You don't need to check it afterwards. I liked that. The seat post clamp is hidden out the way back here. Very neat, works fine. I'm a huge heavy guy, did it once, never done it again. The adjustment of the saddle itself is easy. It clamps brilliantly, it's perfect. The amount of building you need to do when it comes out of the box, I would say, is pretty minimal though. It really is things like put the saddle on the post, put the post in, The bars do come in those 3 pieces and you do need to put those together yourself, but it really is nothing. Right, okay, it comes with 32mm tyres. I think that is an excellent idea. I run 32mm tyres myself. I can't see any reason for going less than that anymore. You can run at lower pressures, so it is more comfortable. The width gives you more confidence in descents, and I really love my descents and going absolutely ridiculously quickly. There's so much more confidence you can gain from that. It's got aero forks, it's got 180mm rotors. Now, it didn't matter that they were 180mm rotors. In my mind, I'm thinking, I've got 180mm rotors. And so I was descending with more confidence because I knew that the stopping power of these ought to be a little bit better than the 160s, even if it's just heat dissipation. The brakes worked absolutely fine. I never thought about them. The CF7 comes with alloy rims made by DT Swiss, so they're fantastic quality. DT Swiss hubs, I'd imagine DT Swiss spokes. It's a standard compact crankset at the front. It's made by Praxis. Praxis are a fantastic quality brand, but that's the one you need to keep. As far as I know, you must keep the Praxis on there because it's the way that it works with the motor. And of course there is somewhere in there a motor. It's almost impossible to see. We move on to the assist in a minute. At the back, that is an 1136. It's essential, and I'll tell you why that is in a moment. Okay, we'll churn through some of the basic facts and figures of the assist system. It's a 200 watt motor that can churn out 40 Newton meters. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. So far, I think I've had this up to 16%, and I've had it in first, actually I think it was second gear, maximum assist, and I was having a lovely chat with the viewers describing how it was to ride. It loves climbs, it loves steep climbs, it just chugs away. It never feels like it's underpowered, but you do go quite slowly. Now, the part of the reason why it works so well is because the mid motor needs to stay at a certain speed, and that speed is more easily governed than a hub motor, because a hub motor necessarily changes its speed with how fast you go. It's in the axle. So the faster you go, the faster the motor's going. The slower, the slower. Electric motors are happiest going at a certain speed. With a motor on the crank, it's your cadence that determines the speed of the motor. So you can imagine by using the gears, you can keep your cadence between 75 and 95. This motor will give you all of its 40 Newton meters. And this is the reason why there is a 36 tooth granny gear at the back, because with a 34 at the front and a 36 at the back, you can spin. You can spin, and you can maintain your 75 to 95 cadence even at very slow speeds, perhaps 8 kilometers an hour. And 8 kilometers an hour is pretty slow, and I think you'll be finding that it will be steeper than 16%. For me, I haven't tried steeper than 16, and I think I was in second gear and still maintaining those revolutions and not having any problems whatsoever. So if there was one thing that impressed me the most about this bike, it's the motor. I don't think we've seen the motor yet. Should we go and have a look at it? There it is. Where? Yeah, it's in there, trust me. So the reason why it comes down here rather than going straight across is because there's a motor in there. That is, I don't know, for most e-bikes that's wider than standard. This is standard. It's probably time then to talk about the stealth attributes of the bike. It seemed from comments in other videos that I started on stealth, and it seemed like I was only really impressed by the stealth. I'm most impressed by the way that this bike goes up steep hills for me as a huge bloke. That's something that it's almost embarrassing how hard I find hills, but I am a big guy. I have had health issues. This bike lets me climb really steep hills slowly, and I think if I had more power, In fact, I've proved it because I've had the BH Aerolite, and it had 65 Newton meters in a mid motor. The difference between the 65 Newton meters of the BH and the 40 Newton meters of this isn't what you can climb, in my opinion, it's how fast you climb it. Because as long as the gears are there, you will climb. You just go slowly. Do you mind? You're climbing up something that you wouldn't have a chance of climbing without a bike like this. And I personally don't mind if I'm going up at 8 kilometers an hour or 12 or 15. You know, I'm not Tadej Pogačar. I just want to get to the top and be alive when I get there, and to look at the views and to give myself a huge pat on the back for getting there. There are no buttons or controls on the stem. There are no... Oh, don't do that. There are no buttons or displays on the top tube. It's all here on the bar end. There's really not a lot to see there. There's a switch to turn on the system, and there are 5 LEDs. So each one of those corresponds to roughly 20% of the battery, and the level, this is in level 0, single push 1, 2, 3, and then back to 0 again. And if you don't really want to be fagged with pushing a button awkwardly on the end of the bars when you're riding along, if you have the Ultegra or Endurace Di2, there are hidden buttons on the top here for up and down shifting on the assist, and I didn't think I'd be getting those remotes with the 105 Di2, but happily, and I don't quite know who fitted them, but under here, I hope you can see that, it's a button, and that changes the level down, and there's another button here for up. So this is under the hood rubber and under the bar tape, down. Hands never need to leave the bars, the hoods even, to change assist levels, and obviously not to change gear. The Di2 is the lightest of touches. There's another nice feature of this bike to do with the Di2, and that is it's powered by the main battery. Now, I've run out of battery on a Di2, and it's not very nice because all of a sudden you're stuck with literally no gears whatsoever. That shouldn't happen on this bike because it's powered from the main battery. And you might think, but what happens when the battery goes dead? Well, it retains a portion of the battery for the Di2. So you'll still be able to change gear even if you don't have assist. It also has, I mentioned the front running light. It also has rear running lights. It's got these very bright rear lights that can be seen from any angle. They're excellent. They're also brake lights, so they do increase in intensity when you brake. These also won't go out if your main battery dies. These also have a reserve. So the reserve for the lights and the Di2 is roughly 2 to 4 hours after your main battery dies. But because of the way that the TQ motor has been built, it has a smart box inside it. And that is a means of taking power off to various other accessories, like the lights, like the Di2. There are other versions, not on this bike, not yet, where just here in the stem, there's a little USB port. And that's, again, it's run off the main battery. But it means that your Garmin will never need to run out of power because you could just plug it in to the main battery just there. And it's all run off the same internal battery, and it all has a reserve, so that will run out last. I just think that's so brilliant because I hate batteries, I hate charging batteries. I tend to forget. You can't forget because you probably won't go for a ride if you don't have a charge in your main battery, so that's the one thing you remember to do. And luckily at the same time you're charging your lights, you're charging your Di2, and sorry, there are a lot of features. It's a feature-rich bike. It has a GPS tracker in it. That is run by a separate battery, but that battery is topped up by the main battery. So you don't need to do anything. But the reason why that has a separate battery is that will run for 4 weeks after your battery is dead. And unless someone knows the bike and knows how to disconnect that battery, you'll be able to track your stolen bike for up to 4 weeks after it goes. And that's after the battery is dead. So there's no real reason why the battery would die. So potentially you've got months to find the thing. Not only is there a GPS tracker in there, there's also a motion detector, which you can set using the app. We haven't talked about the app, we will. But the motion detector you can turn on with your app just when you get to the cafe. And if anyone just touches your bike, if it moves at all, you get a notification or an alarm, and you can go running out and you can say, please give me my bike back, to someone who's touching it, or get off my bike. Whatever you prefer, whatever your greeting in such a situation is. Right, let's talk about range. I hate talking about range. So for me, I record range as being in terms of meters gained, not distance, because I could ride 200 kilometers on the flat and I wouldn't even put the system on. So that would mean that my range is infinite according to that. But of course it wouldn't be. It'd be when my bottom got sore, or when I needed another drink, or I fancied some cake or something like that. I don't eat cake. When I first started riding this bike, I was getting around 1100 meters gained, and that was because I was testing the bike and I was using level 3 a lot. Many viewers have pointed out that once you have a bike, it's quite rare for most people to use level 3, max level, max assist at all. And so my range did increase to just over 1240 meters of climbing. It did include the early stuff. That's, for me, I would say that was pretty good. It also does come, or this one, I was lucky enough to be sent a range extender. We'll look at that in a sec. That's another 160 watt hours. It gave me roughly another 50% on top of those meters. So I never felt that I was going to run out of power. This bike is more than enough for what I can do. And that, remember, that is dragging me and my weight up some really serious climbs that we have around here. This is southern Catalonia. This is the range extender. Like I said, it's 160 watt hours. It weighs 950 grams, and you fit it with a fidlock system. That's on, and then it locks with this little thing there, and then it just plugs into the charging port. I mean, it's incredibly easy. So, come on. So that's quite stiff, and it twists to unlock. I believe there are other things that will fit on your fidlock as well, so you can take that off and have a fidlock bottle cage as well. I personally am not a big fan of range extenders that sit on a bottle cage, but that does seem to be the industry standard. I wish they wouldn't. Those of you who follow the channel a lot, you know I've made my own DIY range extender for the Orbea Again. It sits in a bag here, a small bag here. It's right underneath your bum. It's adding 1 kilo to, for me, what is quite a considerable weight sitting up here anyway. It makes absolutely no difference to the handling, but it does leave both of the bottle mounts free for drinks, like they should be holding on a long ride that needs a range extender. There is a nice little extra about the TQ system in general, in that it uses both cadence and power sensing to detect what you're doing as a rider and to try and meet your needs by changing how the bike reacts to you. What that also means is that you can use a Bluetooth connected device or your phone, and you can use those cadence and power sensors to come up on your Garmin, and you don't need a power meter, and you don't need a cadence sensor. TQ have got 2 screens, and on the second screen just 2 fields that you can choose. It's got how many kilometers I've done so far, and then on one other screen only there's the same information at the top, and then you can choose between 2 fields. So at the moment I've got watts from the bike and watts from me, but if you long click, these are the items that you can select to be one of those 2 items, and that's it. And I wonder if that's enough. And then I think, well, why would you need more? It's just that an awful lot of people like an awful lot of stats, and this isn't very much, particularly to have only 2 on the screen. For most mid-mount motors, when you turn the cranks backwards, the chain doesn't move. It disengages inside, and some people find it quite disconcerting. I do understand what they mean, because I have ridden bikes that have that. You'll be glad to know that when you back pedal with this, the chain goes back too. There is quite a lot of resistance to turning it backwards, but I don't really know why you would, other than just to find yourself the right position, pedal position, to start riding again. Now we are going to have to talk about the downsides. Now there have been a couple, and one of them, strangely, is actually related to that turning the pedals backwards business. Now this is future me reporting. I was about to go into quite a long piece about how there have been some tiny little motor blips when I've been riding this bike in full power up steep hills. They were never more than a slight irritation, but they were there. You could just hear the motor. Actually, you couldn't hear the motor. You could feel the motor just stopping, just for a tiniest fraction of a second, and then start again. It was never quite enough to interrupt your cycling rhythm, but it was there, and it was an irritation. And I talked to TQ about it, and they did say that yes, we're aware of it, but we've got some software which is going to come out around Christmas time, which is going to fix this issue. The reason why the bike did it at all is because in order to save weight for this incredible tiny motor, TQ have removed one of the clutches, and that's the clutch which comes in when you stop pedaling. It's the rider to motor interface. And what it does instead is that the software detects when you've stopped pedaling and will stop the motor from running on. Now, it's very sensitive. It has to be incredibly sensitive. So me just not being quite smooth enough was enough to just momentarily shut the system off. Since making the video, which was only a few days ago, TQ have actually brought forward and have released the software update. So I only know one person who's bought one of these bikes so far, so he will need to go to an authorised dealer to get the software upgraded. Anyone who's buying one new, it's not going to be an issue. It's gone. So that's one of my 2, possibly 3 minor gripes about this bike out of the window. So it's almost as though I need to come up with something else. Now, I've talked about this bar end remote. I think it's absolutely superb. I love it. But what another viewer has pointed out, it is actually in quite a vulnerable position should you go down, should you have a crash. And it's absolutely true. It is one of the places that you're likely to bash. So I don't know how robust these switches are, nor have I found out how much a replacement would be. I suspect not very much. It is a switch with lights on. But I suppose it would be a good idea to actually have a spare in case of a smash, because it is likely to get damaged there, and you don't want to pause while you wait for a replacement to come. So it might be an idea to get a spare one of those. The other issue I have is more with Canyon, sorry Canyon, but it's these beautiful bars. They are height adjustable down, but not up. Now, I wouldn't say that's particularly slammed. My preference actually would be to have probably those two spaces out. I find it more comfortable to be slightly lower at the front, and that's me. It should be the other way, but I've always found it actually that is more comfortable. But if you wanted to go higher, you can't. You just can't. You're going to have to talk to Canyon to try and come up with a way of having some sort of adapter. I don't know whether you can fit the bars off a different bike, say like a Canyon Grizzle, to try and get some extra height on there, or whether the steering tube is actually capable of taking a different bar altogether. I'll leave it as I don't know, so if it's a concern of yours, you need to get in touch with Canyon and see what they say. But for most people, it's not going to be an issue. Oh, one last thing. It's not going to be the last thing. It's another thing. When the bike arrives, I put it together and I got on and I thought, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. I couldn't really get my head around what it was. But what it is that His bike, he's just had a Endurace ONfly delivered to him, and immediately he thought, oh, they haven't put the shifters in the right place. They're too far down. And I've just realised when he said it, it's exactly the same for me. They look absolutely fine, but they're not. Because of the way they're arranged, this is slightly downhill and they seem too far forward. So these need to be just brought up around the bar a bit to be slightly higher. I think that's all I can say about the bike in situ. So let's take it for a ride. So on the bike, there's a few questions that people generally ask. The first one is, how does it feel? And the easiest way of putting that, it feels like a non-assisted bike. I mean, to be honest, a lot of manufacturers are really getting this sorted out with the use of both torque sensors and power sensors. They're really getting an idea, the bikes are really getting an idea of when you're trying to push on a bit and when you're taking it easy. And because it can detect that, it feels like you're doing the work. Unlike older e-bikes where it was a speed sensor, and when it came on, it came on. And so you'd get a surge of power almost in any level. With this, you don't get that because it won't surge unless you push hard. And when you push hard, you think that you're going that much faster because you've just put the effort in. If you've not ridden an e-bike before, you won't necessarily realise you're riding one now, other than all your PB times are going to plummet. One of the questions that get asked most frequently is, when you say it's quiet, how quiet? That's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty quiet. So what I'm going to do, I've tried to find a quiet road, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in maximum assist, which ought to be the noisiest, and I'm going to continually turn the engine, the assist, on and off, and see if you can detect when it's on. It's on at the moment. Can't hear it, so hold on. Off. On. Off. On. Could you tell I couldn't from sitting on the bike, other than of course the assist comes on so I can actually feel it. I couldn't hear it. There's a bit of wind today, not that much, but if you're in a group ride, I don't believe you're going to get people saying, oh, you've just put the power on, like you can with other e-bikes, which I've had in group rides. This has now got quite a lot steeper. We're now at 8%, and I'm chatting to you quite a lot, but it's pretty good, isn't it? It's pretty okay. I'm also in the big ring at the front, which is a bit foolish, so I do need to change out of that. It is an endurance geometry bike, so you can sort of stretch out and get comfy on it. You're not going to be teetering high on a saddle with a sort of nose down racer stance, but it is comfy on long rides. On descents, the bike is sure-footed. It's not twitchy. It's not like a full-blown race bike, which can feel very light on descents. I don't like that. I prefer to feel planted, and that's exactly what you get with this bike. You may have realised I'm actually struggling to find things wrong with it. I can quickly say that there's nothing wrong with how the bike rides. So my overall conclusions for the bike. This is, for me, the perfect bike. There is a slight hesitation there. The hesitation is whether in the future I'm going to need more power to go up those mountains that I love. It's possible. For right now, for the way I am right at this minute, this is absolutely perfect. I don't need more power. I don't need to go faster up the hills. I just want to get to the top. That is the whole ethos of this bike. It's supposed to look like and feel like a normal road bike, and it does. It is, in my opinion, absolutely spot on. I can't recommend it enough. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got to say the usual stuff. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. Particularly subscribe. I'm finally getting somewhere with the channel, so if this is the right sort of thing for you, I've got, I hope, a lot of bikes on the way in. There should be 5 different e-gravel bikes in the next few months, so keep an eye out for those, which is easiest done if you've subscribed. With that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. And I forgot another thing, it's a new thing on the channel. There is a thanks button, and I hate to mention it, I'm going to mention it. If you liked this, if it's something that was useful to you, and you do fancy giving me a donation for doing it, hit the thanks and you can give me a couple of dollars, pounds, euros if you like. Thanks for watching.